Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Girani from Dewa Legal Services. We are based in Stoke-on-Trent, and we've got some offices in Derby as well, and soon we'll be expanding to Liverpool. So I've never been overwhelmed with telephone calls like what I've done today. Lots of people panicking about the new changes the Home Office have been proposing about the refugees in the UK. So I just want to share a little bit of the information so that some of you may not be worried about some of the issues that has got nothing to do with you. I've had lots of people who are on skilled work visas contacting me. Is this going to be impacting us? No, this is specifically for refugees, people who came to the UK to seek asylum in the UK. So, so the government are proposing that refugee status may become temporary with regular reviews, where instead of them getting 5 years, which they used to get, may end up getting 2.5 years, and that decision can also be revoked. Let's say the situation in your home country improves. Okay, so if the situation in your home country, let's say you have claimed asylum, you're from the US, and then the situation in the US improves, there's a new government in America that is more sympathetic to human rights, and then you may end up being told that you can go back to the US because you no longer need refugee protection. So I think that's what this legislation is all about. So whenever this policy is put in place, there are also potential effects that may be affecting most of the people who are seeking asylum in the UK. So this brings a much more long-term uncertainty for refugees, their families. It will be very difficult for them to plan things ahead, to plan jobs, housing, education, because after 2.5 years, you may be told that you're going back to Syria. So this is why this legislation becomes a little bit of a problem, because instead of supporting the refugees to integrate in the society, it will also end up marginalizing them in terms of not integrating well into the society. People could live in the UK for years and still face removal if conditions back home are judged improved. So you can stay here 15 years, and then after that, if the home situation in your home country is improved, you've got children who've been born here, you've got children who are British citizens, it's gonna be a nightmare, these legislations, I'm telling you, on how they are going to implement this. And then there's gonna be more of administrative hurdles and legal costs and court challenges around this. It's not gonna be easy, as I can say this. This is some of the issues around the refugees, and there is a path to settlement which has been lengthened for them. Instead of them getting indefinite leave or permanent residence at 5 years, they could wait uh, for permanent residence up to 20 years. So that's how challenging this it is. Uh, so illegal arrivals, especially those who come from small boats, who also face 20-year wait for them to be able to apply for permanent residence. So that's the main target of the group. That is also led to impact on other people who could be innocent in terms of who have tried to come to the UK in a legal way. They've claimed asylum in the UK. So potential effects of this could be people will spend much longer on temporary status with fewer rights and more vulnerability to policy changes within government. The government that comes in can also change the same policy which they implemented. They can end up saying, oh, we don't need the refugees anymore. Where we are going is going to be that going to happen. There's nothing that is impossible with the way of the rhetoric of the right-wing political parties have been talking about the issues around immigration. And then there's delays in terms of access to things linked to settled status like benefits, secure long-term employment routes, and citizenship. This is going to be a huge hurdle for quite a lot of people. This could discourage some of from coming, but also increase the number of people in long-term limbo. Okay, so these are some of the issues. And then the other issue that's the third issue which I've looked at, is could be housing and financial support for asylum seekers. It becomes discretional and conditional. That's how difficult it will become. Proposal: current statutory duty provides housing and basic financial support for the destitute asylum seekers will be removed. So this is going to be removed. Support will become on discretional and may be denied if, for example, the person can work but does not okay, want to work, or they break UK laws or fail to comply with the rules in accommodation. So this is how difficult it is, because already asylum seekers are not allowed to work. So how are they going to survive in terms of getting support and food around this? So this is a huge change in terms of policy that has been proposed by the Labour government. So what are the potential effects? There could be higher risk to homelessness or destitution for people whose claims are still pending. So there is potential for that. Stronger pressure to work wherever work right exists, even if insecure or low paid jobs. People with any criminal record or behavior issues may lose accommodation and income, and possibly pushing them into irregular work or exploitation. So we might see exploitation coming back again with this scenario, when people are pushed to starve, or we may end up having people onto the streets begging for support, which has never happened at a large scale. It's going to happen in the UK if support is terminated for most of the people whom we're talking about. The fourth issue I looked at would be stronger expectations to work and contribute if you have got work rights. So the proposal of the Home Secretary has said asylum seekers with the right to work will be expected to work and support themselves. But in reality, it's not as easy as the government states that. Asylum seekers doesn't have the right to rent. So even if they go to the landlord will tell them that you don't have the right to rent accommodation. They cannot get the accommodation. It becomes very difficult for them. And then public funded support to be prioritized for those seen as contributing to the economy and local communities. So whatever the government is planning to do in terms of integration is now being quashed again with the same rights of reducing the years of people to settle in. So I don't know how this is going to work, because it's contradicting itself as well around this. Okay. Potential effects: those who can access the labor market may face more pressure to take any jobs available. Risk that people with barriers to work, language trauma, disability, caring responsibilities are penalized if they can't meet these expectations. Employers may gain a larger pool of vulnerable workers, which could increase the risk of exploitation and safeguarding issues. So there's loads of issues around this. And the fifth proposal of the government has been trying to talk about is tighter rules on family reunion and Article 8 applications. That's the right to family life. So their proposal, the government has flagged the plans to reinterpret Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights, which protects the right to family life. Refugee organizations report new restrictions on refugee family reunion as part of the package. Okay, so for some of the people who are not quite familiar with the ECHR, most of the people have heard politicians, oh, we want the European Convention of Human Rights to be abolished. You hear reform political parties, you hear many political parties that they want that to be removed. But to understand this is a legislation that was led by the British intellects who proposed and developed this legislation to protect human rights for all within the European Union. And that's the law that the countries in Europe uses at the present moment, including Denmark, which the government has been saying that they've been following the Denmark model. It still uses the ECHR as its basis for human rights laws. But the biggest problem we have with this is that some people think that if we remove the ECHR, it will stop the migrant boats from coming in. The biggest problem we had with why the boats have increased now has been Brexit. People don't want to own up on that, because Brexit has caused for the UK government to be out of the European Convention of Human Rights, to be out of the Dublin Convention, sorry. So the Dublin Convention made it easier for UK. For example, if somebody comes from France, they come to the UK to claim asylum and then they've been in France, UK would not have any obligation to even screen them. It's just taking their details. Look, oh, you've come through France, you are in the next flight, you're going to back to France. That's where you can go and claim asylum. So there was no need for that. So that deterred quite a lot of boats. If you look, when the UK was within the European Union, there were no boats like this. So the boats have increased now when the UK is out of the European Union, because the Dublin Convention is not there anymore. That's why we have got a record number of boats. So we need to understand that by having Brexit, it has increased the numbers of the boats coming in. So there's going to be also tighter rules on family reunion on Article 8 applications, potential harder effects, which I've identified, looking at the legislations, could be harder for refugees to bring spouses, their wives, their children, their partners, their children to the UK. More family separation and emotional and psychological harm, especially for children. Some people who might previously had won an appeal of family life grounds may now be refused or be removed again. So there is loads of issues around this. It's a very good thing that has been proposed to have this on paper, but in reality it's going to be very difficult. I don't know how they are going to deal with this, because we've got families now that are mixed here in the UK. You may have children who are British citizens, you've got parents who are not, and then how are you going to remove that person who has got mixed parenting with children who are British citizens has got to be removed from the UK? It's going to be so difficult. And then more returns once home countries are safe. That's the other options which the Home Office has been proposing, including for people long settled here. Okay, the Home Office says refugee protection will be explicitly temporary, and the people may be required to return once their home country is safe. So the policy is openly modeled on Denmark, where refugees can be sent back when conditions improve. Denmark did that. They were trying to send Syrians back to Syria when there was also problems around that area as well. So what are the potential effects around this as well? Even people who have been here for years, including children in UK schools, could face removal once the government's view of safety changes. Anxiety for communities such as Syria, Afghan, Ukrainian refugees worried about how safe will be defined and monitored could lead to more legal challenges on whether the country or region is genuinely safe. So we might have quite a lot of legal challenges around this. It's not something that is going to be quite easy to just roll on. Use of facial age estimation for people claiming to be children. So the government wants to use AI facial age estimation for people claiming to be children to avoid some of those people who might say that they are under 18 years and they are adults. So there's loads of issues that are also coming in. And then the shift towards the Danish style model, more restrictive overall environment proposal. Government aims to match or exceed Denmark standards where refugee status is temporary. Support is conditional. Integration and contribution are strongly emphasized. Ministers also talk about opening more safe legal routes as counterpart to tougher rules or irregular arrivals. I don't know how that is going to work, and where is it going to be the safe routes around that. Potential effect: the UK becomes less attractive as a destination for people seeking asylum via irregular routes, more emphasis on resettlement schemes and controlled routes. Overall, stricter climate for anyone without a clear pre-approved route to the UK. So what does this mean for applicants and future cases? More insecurity, harder to settle, greater importance of conduct and work. Yeah, those people will be driving cars without insurance, drink driving. This will be a difficult one for them. Once you commit any of those crimes, that could be a potential route for you to be refused leave to remain. Higher stakes appeals and reviews within the court system. I can see the courts being overwhelmed with this one. So there's loads of issues. Complex family reunion issues. It's likely to be harder to get family here or rely on family rights lines here. So these are some of the issues. It's just a basic I've tried to share with you guys. It's a worrying time for some of the families who might be worried about their immigration status. And then in the next episodes, I'll be talking about the skilled workers, because I've been coming across lots of people asking me about skilled workers and also issues around that topic. Okay, so it's Jurani from Dewa Legal Services. My email is jurani@dewalegalservices.org. So if you've got any questions, or feel free to email me. Thank you for listening. Bye.